Good evening! We're live once again on a Sunday night. We're going to be talking a lot about USOs tonight. What is USO? Well, actually, it's a UAP, but it comes from the water specifically. And why is it coming from the water? What's going on spiritually that makes the water significant? Well, there's lots to talk about that, but we're not just covering that. We're also going to go over some stuff from Eric Burleson. We're also going to cover some new UAP release videos from Skywatcher. We're going to talk a little bit about Bob Lazar. We're going to talk about a lot of these things and how it pertains to the coming spiritualism, the new strange normal that's going to be happening in your life. So make sure you stick around and watch the whole show. I'll see you soon.
The system is totally rigged and broken.
There's
a whole fleet of them. Look on the SA. My gosh.
Demonstrators will declare themselves to be inhabitants of 5 distant planets in the galaxies that are coming to warn the inhabitants of planet Earth of the impending destruction of the planet.
It is now 89 seconds to midnight. This is the closest the world has ever been.
I still think these are what people call angels. I'm dying to know what they've got to say.
Pretty severe suffering brings them.
These entities have the ability to appear in any form.
Strange Normal. My name is Bradley. We talk about the stranger things that happen in your normal life to give you a biblical understanding of what is going on, and there's a lot going on, so make sure you hit that subscribe button, hit that little bell icon so you're notified when things like this happen. And we're going to talk a little bit about USO tonight. USO, it's not really something we have ever really dug into on this program, but I think it's time, because a lot more is coming out about that right now, and we need to understand, does this have any spiritual connotations to it, and why, how is it connected? I have a friend of mine who I'm going to bring on in just a second. He has been texting me, a close friend of mine. We've been friends for a long time. And he said, you know what, there's something here. There's something here. We have to talk about this. And so I'm going to bring him on live and we're going to discuss it. But before we do, hey, I just want to tell you guys that you missed it. I was at Cedar Ridge, Tennessee this last weekend. We were doing a series on this stuff, not a series, a presentation on this. It went very well, and I was asked to come back and talk more about this in a later date. But we're going to do this again. We're going to do this from Decatur, Arkansas, Clanton, Alabama again. Florida, New Mexico, California are also talking about this, but they haven't scheduled the time. And don't forget, July 3 through 12, GC is going to be happening, GC session, and you want to be there for that because you're going to get a free t-shirt if you sign up at the link below in the comments if you're watching this in the archive. So let's get into it. I'm going to tell you a little bit more about what's going on because there's lots more happening, but I want to bring in my guest tonight, Fred. Man, it's good to see you again. Oh, you're muted. Yeah.
Hold on. There we go. I forgot I did that. How you doing, man?
Good.
Well.
Good. Very good. Man, so I want to give everyone a little background on how we know each other because I think it's really neat to that we're doing this together. I haven't seen you physically, virtually even for years and years, and so really good to see you again.
CA still.
Huh?
Yeah. You were still out in California when I last
Mm-hmm.
saw you, I think.
That's right.
Yeah.
That's right. So Fred and I, if I remember right, I met you doing the Ivor Myers presentations on the blueprint. You and I were both working video and audio, right?
Yeah. Yeah. Army. It was an Army Bible camp.
Yeah. Yeah, that's right.
Yeah. Yeah. I actually had to have had to have you help me out a few times because there were a couple of camps I couldn't go to, and I'm like, Brad, can you like stand in for me, please?
It was fun. It was
It was
really
good.
fun. Yeah.
Yeah, and we just kicked it off ever since.
Uh-huh. Yeah. And I
Yeah.
always have appreciated your insights into some of this stuff. I've been so busy, and sometimes it's hard to get back to you. And everybody else that's been sending messages through Messenger, Facebook, email, Discord, WhatsApp. I need to limit down some of these ways that I can be communicated with because I can't keep up with it. And some people send me messages, and I miss it for weeks. And so but you have my personal number, and send me a text message if you have anything. And you have been, and it's fantastic. Some of the stuff that you've found with this USO stuff. It's really interesting. I don't want to go into it deep right now, but really fascinating stuff we're going to get to.
Definitely. Yeah, it was an eye opener. I will just say that because with your channel here, and just kind of, is anyone looking at the objects underneath the ocean? Is anyone like really studying that? And so, yeah, I know we're going to dive into that, but yeah, back to you.
Yeah. So we got a few things I want to cover right before we get into that, because I want to give it some legitimacy and kind of catch everyone up that's not that hasn't always followed the show for every single episode. And so some of the things that we talk about are what the government has been talking about these things in the oversight committee, and what the legitimate talk is about this stuff, about the US government, about your and I government on this topic. And so one of the government officials, Eric Burleson, he's I believe he's a congressman, and he was in on the UFO hearings, the UAP hearings, and he was saying, you know what, I think this is a spiritual battle. I think this is more of a religious problem than anything else, and he agrees. But watch how it turns when I play this clip. This is really phenomenal because we're told exactly how this is going to turn up, and it's not how you expect. I'm stalling here because I just realized that all my files have not imported yet. Just a moment here. Details. Let me bring that up into the right area. B-roll. I wish I could cut this out, but sometimes, you just got to roll with live. So, okay, here we go. This is the first clip of Burleson talking to another podcaster. Watch this.
So these were two hearings. The first one was epic. I mean, there's often a crowd here in Washington, D.C., and especially oversight. There's usually some interest. But this was of a level no one has ever seen. You had people lined all throughout the building in a line to try to get into that hearing. And they were when you talk to those people, they were so excited just to get that Congress was looking into this, right? And I now for me, I'm a skeptic. I think it's foolish to just jump to a conclusion that these are little green men from another planet that travels here. I think that, I'm from Missouri, you're going to have to show me, right? Like until I see it, I'm not going to believe it. But I will say, we have a responsibility. When we had testimony from fighter pilots who have said that their lives are at risk because they are encountering these UAPs, and sometimes there's near collisions with them that are reported. It is very disturbing, the level of activity, especially near our military bases and nuclear facilities. So it certainly is a security risk. But the biggest concern is that we know that there are programs that are operating in the dark, and they're not following the law. They're not reporting to Congress what their activities are.
So I'm going to pause it right there
as
just for a
someone
second.
who is a skeptic,
I'm going to pause it right there for a second. I think this really brings to mind some of the quotes from some Bible commentary that I can remember. Man, I wish I brought it up here, Fred. But he said that, I remember the quote saying that a lot of the things that are going to happen at the last end of the world's history will be happening in secret meetings, and this is essentially what he's saying. This something is happening under the radar of the government. Something is happening that is beyond our control, and we're going to figure out what that is. Do you remember that quote?
Yeah, actually, I'm looking for it right now. But I do remember that quote about secret meetings and things happening in the darkness, and they're not being revealed quite yet, but they're just happening.
Mm-hmm.
I'm looking for that. I'm looking for that quote because I do remember that quote. So,
Well,
continue. I'll look for that.
let me run this clip, the rest of it, where he actually starts talking about religion and stuff. This is actually a 4-minute clip, and this just fascinated me where he was going with this. Watch.
one has to wonder, we continue to have people from the deep state, from the military industrial complex, come forward and blow a whistle. At some point, it continues to lend credibility to the previous testimony.
And
And there's a spiritual aspect of this as well. I don't know if you have.
yes, there is, because he said even that he theorizes that these things come from a higher dimension, I believe is what he said.
Yeah, David Grush was the line of questioning that I tried to go down with him, is that in his briefing, what he sent to us, he had discussed that one of the ongoing theories, or one of the dominant theories, is that these aliens are extra dimensional. In other words, they have the ability to exist outside of the normal dimensions that we live in. And my response to that is, okay, well then, to me that sounds like angels. That sounds like angelic beings. And so I think that, and so there's an entire community of Christians who believe that, and I don't think it's inconsistent with the Bible. I mean, they basically just say, clearly God describes other creatures when he's describing, seraphim and cherubim and, what we classically call angels, that these are clearly different races that we don't normally recognize on planet Earth, right? And so the question is, do the cherubim and seraphim, are they like aliens from another planet? Do they have their own, place where they reside and they come from? And do they have the ability to travel here? And if so, it might explain, what some of the encounters in the Bible, where you have things that are clearly terrifying to see, because every time an angel is described as seeing someone, they have to first say, "Don't be afraid," right? So I don't, I've that is an interesting conversation, and as a Christian, it's fun to explore that conversation, but I still come back to the fact that at the end of the day, I cannot. I'm not going to jump to a conclusion and believe that these are little green men, or something from another planet, until I actually get my hands on something or see something.
Sure, because on the flip side of that too, there is a sort of darkness as well involved with the UAP phenomenon that seems to be even more harmful. And I know many Christians theorize that there is some kind of demonic part of it too, as well as the angelic part of it as well. Which makes me think, for you and your colleagues, were there, I guess, challenges with opposition between what you guys were thinking amongst your colleagues when it came to the hearings, like the post results of them?
No, I think generally there's everyone has a very inquisitive attitude. Now, some people they're absolutely sold that these are aliens from another planet. I think they can't come into this conversation believing that. And I don't want to, I personally don't want to do that. I don't want to presuppose. I want to actually have a thoughtful dialogue and investigate and try to get down to real truth, because it could very well, and this is what I said in the hearing, is that isn't it more likely, as opposed to when people talk about the odds, and I'll concede, like, the universe is vast, it's huge, and if you give the argument when people say, surely somewhere out in this vast universe there's other life on other planets. I'm not going to argue with that, but what I will say is it also means that given the vastness of the universe, of all the places that another life on another planet is going to go, why in the world would they come here? Right? The same argument holds. If the universe is that vast, that means that the likelihood is very, very unlikely that of all places that they would travel exactly here. Does that make sense?
Wow, there's a lot to discuss there, but
there's this whole lot. I'm sitting here like, okay, well, one of the things that came to my mind was Psalms 2, where it talks about why do the heathen rage and the people imagine a vain thing, and then that is that verse 2 where they talk about the kings and the councils set themselves together. The kings of the earth set themselves, and the rulers take counsel together against the Lord and the Most High. And I'm like thinking, okay, so you've got all of these. These guys. I like the way that he's not just biting the spiritualism apple there. I like that because he's saying, okay, there's more to this than meets the eye. I mean, if he read Job in the aspects of, okay, Job had this test against him, but before that test happened, there was these sons of God that met with God, and if he's thinking in that mindset there, that okay, maybe we are not alone in the universe. But what are these beings here that are quote unquote visiting us? I like the way he's thinking, and I'm glad, like I said, I'm glad he's not taking that spiritualism apple, and just like, yes.
Yeah. And when he went down the spiritualism path, I found it very interesting. He didn't take the bite from the host saying that these were potentially dangerous. Didn't you? Did you catch that? I thought I would have been all over that. But he's like, yeah, these could be angels. And the guy's like, yeah, well, there's some negative connotations about them. He's like, yeah, let's talk about something else. Huh. Why?
Yeah.
So
they're afraid of it. I mean, I don't know. I think afraid is probably a strong word. I think they just don't understand, and they would rather take I'm going to say it like this. I think you know what I'm going to say. The easy, popular
right, yeah, politician
versus let's deep dive into this and figure out what's going on, because obviously, the topic that we're going to cover tonight. I mean, you've got UFOs in the sky, or UAPs. They call them UAPs now, right? And USOs. But have they been here for a while? And I mean, there's like I said, I like the way the one guy was going. He's like, it's not like they might have been here. I mean, obviously they've been here before us, but that's anyway.
So no, yeah, I completely understand where you're going, and I think it'd be good to actually see what these guys are seeing, because it's very confusing when you see it in the air. In fact, there has been a group run by a person named Jake Barber. So if you've been following the program, not specifically speaking to you, just speaking to the audience, Fred, but they have they have been doing some very interesting stuff where he said, look, I was a part of the government at one time. I'm no longer there. I know how to contact the people that and form my own groups. And we're going to try to do this without the government, because what the government's doing is contacting these things through meditation, and they're summoning these things down to the ground to talk to them. And so that's I mean, if you've heard that for the first time, if you're just watching this, your mind is probably going, what is going on here? Yeah, this is what people are saying in podcasts, because people aren't going on the news anymore, because the news filters things through a bias. And so they're going on podcasts and they're talking about this from a different perspective, and things are happening in the background, and I think that we need to talk a little bit more about them so we know as Christians what's coming down the line. And so Jake Barber, as he's been doing this, sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off for stepping you, Fred.
No. Go ahead.
Yeah. So Jake Barber has been, he's got 2 videos out this week, and he's showing these fireballs in the sky, as he calls them. And I'd like to play those. First, one right after the other. We can comment on it. But before you do, I want to bring it back to you. Do you want to say anything before I do that?
Yeah. So my question is how are they contacting them?
Meditation.
Just meditation.
Yeah, it's I've come to
like other people around.
Yeah, it's what they call CE5, and the CE5 thing is a protocol of basically emptying yourself and allowing other spirits into you, and then focusing on that, and then they say they are able to control things. But really, what's happening is they are being controlled and being able to see visions and things of what they want you to. And they don't get it, but that's essentially what's going on. And they are being what they term as an instrument, being tuned to allowed to be able to do this. And I can go into my theories behind why they say that, but I'll digress from that.
I like where you're heading with that, because it's a mindset. Mm-hmm. And it was something I didn't dive into completely on when we were texting back and forth, but it's a mindset. You have to. If the adversary is preparing the people for a specific mindset, and the whole world has to be on board.
Yeah,
I mean, this goes to something that you and I were chatting about before, which was there's the sea part of it, and then there's the land part of it, and you actually sent me a text. What about Revelation 10 and talking about Revelation 10 talks about it's an angel comes down, and this is a good angel. This is the Lord's angel, and he is saying that. I'm the owner of the sea and the land, and that mindset, that scripture actually takes you back to Genesis and to the whole creation thing. Who created the heavens, the earth, the sea, and the springs and fountains of water? But if Lucifer, if the devil can say, no, this is my territory. This is going back to Job again. This is my territory, both the sea and the land. And I need you guys to understand that this is the devil's thinking this is my rim. And if this is my rim, this is my sea and my land and what I do down here. And so the whole thing with getting people in the mindset of UFOs and I keep saying UFOs, UAPs. I'm not used to the new language.
I know.
And the under the sea objects, and I mean, it's going to go to a spot where it's like, okay, you've got aliens coming from other worlds.
Yeah.
And these aliens are going to be our quote unquote saviors.
Yeah. And that's
at least
heathen,
some movies. Yeah.
Heathen deities.
Yeah.
what she says.
Heathen deities.
That's
Yes.
crazy. I mean, and in fact, we're going to get into that further in the program. They're actually Tom DeLonge, a former artist who thinks he's very deep into this. He says that he believes that the heathen deities from Egypt and Samaria, he says they're all coming back. He says that's what I've been told, and everything is going to happen. And you know what? I just did a presentation on this last Saturday, and in front of a church, and I pulled it out from Bible commentary, from the Spirit of Prophecy, saying, look, it says it right here. It's going to present itself as heathen deities, and they're coming back to walk among men in physical form. It's going to happen.
They're already doing it in the movies. They're just preparing your mindset. I mean, you've got movies like, what is it, Thor and Batman and Spider-Man. I mean, these are, I mean, especially Thor. That one sticks out because that is truly a heathen deity.
Yeah.
Superman. These are gods.
Exactly.
They're gods to humans. You got regular people here. It's like, I don't have superpowers like that. But you're right. I mean, when I first read that particular quote years ago, I'm like, are you saying that Marvel Universe comics are going to be roaming the earth?
That's
And you know what they're also going to be doing? They're going to be healing people.
Oh yeah. It's already happening with blood cells.
Counterfeit healing.
Yeah.
Yeah. I want to see these videos. I mean, you've got me spin now. You got me on the spin.
I want to put some legitimacy behind what I just said, and that was the quotes I was talking about. I'm just bringing it on my screen here. See if I can do that. I'm not even sure if I can. Can I? Yes. Okay.
Yeah, I can see it.
This is my notes from the sermon. This is at the end of it. So let me see if I can find it here. In the past, it says from Great Controversy 556, in the days of the Hebrews, there was a class of people who claimed, as the spiritualists today, to hold communion with the dead. But the familiar spirits, as these visitants from other worlds were called, in other words, they had an AKA. They had also known as, they called them the visitants from other worlds. And I think I just lost Fred. He'll come back. Okay, he's back.
I had to take a drink. Sorry.
But the Bible declares them as spirits of devils. Okay, so will this happen in the future? Yeah, it says the pretended visitants from other worlds of the spirits sometimes utter cautions and warnings that prove to be correct. Then confidence is gained. They'll present doctrines that directly undermine the scriptures. What are those doctrines they present? Because it's a whole new religion that they're going to be teaching. Well, this is what she says. I had to pull this quote out. It's in a whole different presentation, but she said that at the end of time, the new religion that will be formed is the law of God will be set aside, which makes sense that the commandments will be found. That's why the commandments are going to be found, because God's going to say, okay, look, no, actually that's real. And then the spirit of grace will be despised. The blood of the covenant counted as an unholy thing. I mean, this is heavy. The spirit denied the deity of Christ and place even the creator on a level with themselves, which is already being done with the Raelian group, which is a group of alien believers that think that God is just another scientist from another world, placing it on the same level as what we can be. And I forget the exact quote. I have or the reference for this, but you can Google or go and look up any of these phrases that are in bold right here and that I just stated, and you can find that quote and read up more about it. But I want to get back into those videos I was going to show, because these are really, really wild to actually see spiritualism arrive in our day and what they are actually seeing. Still grainy, but it's becoming more and more of a popular thing. So I'm going to cue that up and see if I can play that. Maybe. All right, here we go.
Oh, there's another one.
I can't tell if that bottom one is playing or not.
The stars of the heavens.
Third one. Nope, that was one of them.
All right, they're going to zoom in. I'm going to go to the next video, and they're going to see more of these things. Play. These orange red objects in the sky, they say look like they are on fire from a distance. And they appear, they disappear.
All 4 of them? Is there 5 of them?
That must have been a plane that caught fire.
Yeah.
There we go. There's 3.
Wow.
That's crazy. That's crazy. And I know someone somewhere is going to say, well, those are flares. But the weird thing is, you'll see them if you watch them for long enough. You'll see some go up, some go down. They disappear. They reappear in a different location. This is spiritualism. We're on the edge of something that's huge, because this is the group that's going out, and they even call it. They say summoning. We're summoning these things out of thin air, and they are appearing to us. How long is it going to be before, just like Bledsoe, these things come up to you? They say when the government's seeing them, they're roughly all about 42 feet in diameter. And when something comes up to him, like Chris Bledsoe said, and his son Ryan, he said when they come out, they present themselves as heathen deities. They say Hathor has appeared, and she told us what to do next and all this other stuff. Very, very fascinating stuff. Very scary, but this is the thing that's coming upon the world right now. Let me see if I can find it.
I don't want that to come up to me whatsoever.
No, yeah, I'm gonna start claiming Bible promises as soon as I see that. That's not for me. Absolutely not.
Living out in the middle of nowhere where we have forest around us, I'm like, nah, I don't want to play that.
No, I'm good. Stay away. Exactly. But, Revelation 16 says, and I believe this is a chronological thing, it says that they will come to the kings of the earth and to the whole world. And so we're going to be...
That's right.
These things are coming to leaders first, and then we're going to have to deal with that.
Yeah. You have to get them on board first, because their influence is leaders have a lot of influence. People follow their leaders. That's why and it's interesting you should say that. I'm stuck on this Psalms 2 thing, because you pointed out, because it starts off with the kings and then it goes to the rulers and they take counsel, but then you had said something in your quotes there, that they just want the commandments to be done away with. And when you look at verse 3 of that, it's this, let us break their bands asunder. Those bands, let's break the commandments. We don't need the commandments whatsoever. We can do our own thing. It all ties together. It all ties together.
It does. And it proves to me that there's nothing new under the sun, just as Solomon says. This has all happened once before, and it will happen again. It makes me really wonder... it makes me wonder so much about antediluvians and how that all happened. I'm excited more about getting to heaven and actually going back and watching how civilization progressed back then and how it's progressing now, and how the angels are going, look, they're doing the exact same thing. We know
this playbook. Page 32. Do that one with that guy.
So I have another clip up here. Jeremy Corbell's podcast, Weaponized, is what he's not a Christian podcaster, but he has a podcast where he gets on with George Knapp, who has been covering this stuff, who I always thought was crazy. There's a bunch of Georges that cover UFO stuff, and they used to come on Art Bell back in the day and all this other stuff. But now that I know the key characteristics behind this stuff, I'm like, okay, now this is legit. Now I need to look into this a little bit further. But he came on and he said he had a firsthand witness that talks about these things. I believe he's in the Navy, and he says we see these things all the time. And I am watching the radar. I'm watching And seeing these things come out of the water, and I know what a plane looks like. I know what the different lights on these things look like. These is not what I see, and so he talks a little bit about that. I'm just going to let him roll with this story, and he's going to talk about them coming out of the water, and then we'll talk a little bit about that too, because I think that's really fascinating stuff. Watch this.
You know, I've been in the Navy for 23 years, so as an operations specialist, so I know the difference between, you know, helicopters, which I'm a helo controller myself, with an NEC of helo control, and knowing the difference between that, commercial navigation radars, which are your typical ComNav that are, you know, going to Hawaii possibly, and then atmospherics, so things like clouds, rainstorms, things like that. You learn over, you know, the years to differentiate what's what on your radar. So that night, I noticed that I couldn't differentiate what was what at all amongst the things that I just mentioned. So I decided to go out into the bridge wing just to take a look, to see. I didn't think it was that far away. I think, you know, it's nighttime, so light travels. So I figured, you know what, let me just poke outside, see what I can see. And to my surprise, which is something I've never witnessed, was a light I noticed on the horizon, but it looked as if it were surfacing out of the water and going up. Now, seeing lights on the horizon, very typical when you're out in the water, but seeing a light on the horizon going into the air is a different story. So witnessing that, I'm not sure of what I'm seeing. What goes through my head, maybe there's you know, a military team that's out there conducting flight operations, and maybe their helos hovering, something like this, you know, but their lights blink. I'm a helo controller, so I know that their lights, their running lights are going to be blinking, red, green, and, you know, pulsating. So it's like it's going to be a solid light, and that's what I witnessed, was a solid light rising from the horizon up. So went back inside, looked at my radar to just kind of match what I'm seeing with my own eyes, and I didn't really see what I thought I was going to see. I only saw one light visually, but then I saw 4 different contacts on radar. So seeing those 4 contacts on radar, I asked our CSM, I forget what that stands for right now, but Combat Systems, I forget the full title, but asked the CSM to take a look on Sapphire. They're in charge of managing Sapphire and moving it around, to just look at surface and air contacts around our ship. So they slew over to the location that I gave them, the direction in which I gave them, and that's where you see the video cut into play, where you see it slew into that target to kind of look at it. And you know, they're the operator, so they know how to zoom in and kind of see what the profile of the contact that we're looking at, to kind of understand, okay, if it were a ComNav radar, which is a typical, you know, airliner 747, then we're going to say, okay, good to go. They're, you know, headed off to Hawaii or wherever, anywhere to the west. But that night we didn't witness that, as shown by the video.
Okay, so that was kind of an introduction to his story. I'm going to continue on with it because there's not much I can say about it other than that's interesting that he's seeing stuff out there. But let's continue to hear what it is that comes out of the water, and how it reacts. Here we go.
Did you see one of these craft come up out of the water or not out of the water?
Absolutely. So when I say that I saw this craft come out of the water, it's nighttime. So I want to be clear when I say what I saw a light, and it was a decently bright light. So when you've been on the water as long as I have, you know the difference between an aircraft carrier's lights, a difference between an oiler's lights, a fishing, you know, a cargo ship. It's what we learn when we freshly come into the Navy, especially as an operations specialist. We have to learn silhouettes, we have to learn lighting structures, things of that nature. It's just part of what our job is. Being senior enlisted, it's become part of very basic elementary things that you have to know when doing your job. Kind of learning the basics first, and then, you know, applying what you experience throughout your time, and then kind of coming up with your, you know, solution as what you're seeing. So watching this light emerge from the water at a distance and then go into the air with a solid light, no blinking or anything, I've never noticed that and witnessed that ever in my life. That's kind of what triggered me to go back to my instruments, check it out, talk with the watch team and ask them, are you seeing what I'm seeing? Let's use other sensors. Let's use what we got to see what we're witnessing. There's a lot of skeptics out there. I get it. It's we're not meant to all be the same person and think the same way. And it's no different on board a Navy ship. So on board the ship that night, after all 4 of those craft left at the same exact time, we had a few people that were on the bridge, different from Combat Information Center. It's kind of like a curtain that separates us. And, you know, we're just kind of laughing like you witnessed what you witnessed. You guys understand what you saw. And, you know, I believe it was the junior officer of the deck was just saying, hey, you know, nah, that was just an aircraft. It was just an aircraft, typical, you know, 747. And I said, sir, did you see wings? Did you see, you know, anything protruding from the craft that indicated a silhouette of a typical aircraft? And he was like, yeah, well, it's because we're so far away from the aircraft that it seems to look like a Tic Tac. So I said, okay, sir, got it. I would say maybe 20 seconds pass. 20 seconds pass, and I go back to my radar, and I'm just looking around, and I tell the CSM, I said, slew over to a certain degree, and I forget the degree. And he slews over to an air contact that I know is an air contact, and I tell him, zoom in. Now, I just mentioned that there's a curtain that separates ICC-1 from the bridge, but the bridge has the same monitors that we have, so they can see what we're doing from the bridge, and you can change like channels so they can see certain pictures that are being displayed in ICC-1. So they're already displaying the Sapphire camera on one of the multiple monitors on the bridge. So when I tell them to slew over, I say, OD, do you see what this air contact looks like? This air contact was maybe 5-6 nautical miles further than what we witnessed, the Tic Tacs, and you can clearly see the wings. You can see the propulsion. You can see the propulsion, like when on a hot summer day, being from Las Vegas, George Knapp, I'm sure you know what that is. You can see that hot propulsion from the aircraft. And I told the JOD, I said, like, what do you have to say now? You know, because it was funny to me that I was able to disprove his skepticism like within 20 seconds. That what we witnessed was probably an airplane. We were just zoomed in so far that it just looked like a small Tic Tac, but disproved like within 20, 30 seconds. And he didn't really say anything after that. He just kind of chuckled and laughed.
Okay, so I'm going to stop it there just for a second, and I'm going to continue with the rest of the story because there's a little bit more where he says that there's another aspect of this phenomenon where there was multiple, and how they reacted was very interesting. But do you have any comments before I jump into that one?
No, actually, I heard a little bit about this story here, and it's still intriguing how he sees it enter the water, and then he sees it disappear. It goes up, and it's all about that water. Why is it coming out of the water?
You tell me. I'm very curious. Let's go into it. This is fascinating.
Because like I said, you and I briefly chatted about this, and that's always been my interest. I mean, we see these I'm going to use the old term again, UFOs, UAPs, in the sky, and I know that there's been an uptick of them here a lot lately. I think I saw some videos that it's been upticking since like 2000 or something like that. I don't know. I don't
Yeah.
know the actual exact date, but no one's paying attention to the sea. I mean, you've got all of um, these sightings in the sea, and when they pay attention to them, it's like it's jellyfish or it's a blue whale or something like that. Don't
That's
report it, please. Just
That's
yeah.
funny you should say that because I just went to, I'm off camera because I'm grabbing something real quick. I just went to somewhere. I shouldn't say exactly where, but I visited Space Force, one of the many bases. This is really cool. I got this from a friend of
I
mine.
like that.
And they gave me some badges. Isn't that cool? I think these are really neat. But I got to ask him a little bit about what they see out there, because one of the guys that I talked to wasn't necessarily the person I had contact with. I'm being very vague about this because I don't know what I'm supposed to say about this or not. And he says, we do see things out there, but it could be sun flares on the ocean, or it could be something that's flashing that we see because the government is monitoring this stuff, and they're saying, hey, we're seeing stuff flying around out there, but it doesn't appear to be coming from the sky like aliens coming to Earth. It appears to be coming from the waters, and we don't know why.
Yeah, from the waters.
Why the water?
And the waters is interesting. So can I throw
Yeah.
the biblical spin in there?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So like I said, you and I were chatting, and the waters, that's probably the most. What is it about? Over 70% of the Earth is water, and we know more about the surface of the moon than we know about the depths of the ocean on our own planet,
Right.
and it's unexplored. And so I go to this verse. So if you can bring this verse up, Isaiah 27:1.
Isaiah 27:1. Let me see if I can
And
find it.
Isaiah 27:1.
Let's go. Let's see here. All right. Flip it around. All right.
There we go. And so I was reading this, and as it says on the screen, in the day of the Lord, with his sword, great strong sword, he shall punish Leviathan. And then it starts to get into what this Leviathan is, its characteristics, the piercing serpent, even the Leviathan, that crooked serpent.
Huh.
And he shall slay the dragon. And then it says that is in the sea.
Whoa. So wait, it's talking about a crooked serpent, which we know Revelation says is the devil of old, that is Satan.
Yeah.
And it says that he that slays the dragon that is in the sea. So is this talking prophetically as is it with the people, or is this literally talking about, hey, they're hiding in the sea?
I'm thinking it's talking about both.
Wow.
Honestly, because I'm like, there's a prophetic. Obviously, when we study this, we're looking at the prophetic aspect of it. We're looking at it from what is it? Revelation 17? Is it 17, 14, or 15? Where it talks about the waters being the peoples, nations. Hold on. I don't like to. Let me do this. Revelation 17. I think it is. Yeah, it's Revelation 17, 15.
Huh.
And so when I was looking at that, I'm like, okay. And he said unto me, the waters which thou sawest where the horse sit are peoples and multitudes and nations and tongues. And I'm thinking to myself, waters. And I start looking up waters, and I'm like, waters doesn't say sea. That word doesn't say sea. It's just water. It's just. I understand the sea is made of water, but this is more like a fresh water. In fact, if you dive into it, it's like rain or shower. So I can see that the connection with the sea is there, but this, when you go back to Isaiah 27:1, it's literally saying sea.
Yeah.
And with all of these USO sightings, there were like the gentleman you just had on and it's just more than just this gentleman that you just had on. There are military craft, military vessels. The Navy is had many USO sightings where
Yes.
it's either off in the distance. I know you have a video for this.
Yeah. Well, it's the Nimitz encounter is the main one that in 2004.
Nimitz encounter. Yes.
Yeah, it came. That was the one that kind of started this whole thing when they had. I think the Nimitz is a aircraft carrier. Correct me if I'm wrong, but it had it was doing some test maneuvers, and these four pilots, two planes went out, and they said, "Hey, by the way, we got some real life activity we want you to take care of. Go to this location." They saw this Tic Tac. It had fallen from 80,000 feet down to sea level, 20 feet above the water, and started boiling the water over the top of it. It said it was churning, and they said as soon as we saw it, and it started making a maneuver around it, it started mimicking us in a 180-degree fashion, and then took off and missed us by just like feet over our cockpit, and met us at our rendezvous point, our classified rendezvous point. And they said, we know, we all saw this. The radar saw this. We saw it with our eyes. Our FLIR cameras saw this. And we have pictures of it, have video of it. And so, yeah, something is coming out of the water there, or they're trying to make it seem like it's coming out of the water. And maybe this Bible verse really actually proves that this whole thing, when they went underground in the 1700s, I'm pulling from Marjorie Morneau's understanding. When they went underground, they literally went and stayed under the places where we don't know much about, which is the oceans. Wow!
You say underground. I'll give you another word: the deep or the abyss.
The abyss. I knew that. Seconds before you said that, I was like, ah.
Because I mean, you go back to Genesis 1, Genesis 1 and 2. I mean, the earth, when it was first created, when did land show up? Land didn't show up until was it the next day or a few days later? But it was a globe of water. So I understand where it says that Satan is a prince of the air, but then this takes us back to what we talked about earlier, that not only he wants to be prince of the air, but he wants to be prince or king of the land and of the sea.
Wow.
And so we've barely touched or barely explored the sea whatsoever. And what's the best spot of hiding? Go there.
Yeah. And it's interesting to me that they are when they were looking into this stuff, it was a little bit south of and in the ocean of the Nimitz encounter was Los Angeles. Oh, Los Angeles.
Los Angeles.
Kind of a important area for them to be able to reach really quickly. So I don't know. The Bible seems to indicate this might be true, and so this channel is here for speculation a little bit. I'm not speculating as far as going against the Bible or trying to come up with my own theories, but the goal is to look at what Scripture says and say, okay, this is happening in our life right now. What is really happening? And maybe there's a better word than speculation, because I've been called out for that, and people have been like, you shouldn't speculate. What? But this isn't really speculation. Well, this is more of trying to rightly divide Scripture.
Yeah, and try to understand, because like when we read that verse, when you look back at that verse, if you can throw that back up on the screen,
right here.
My other screen is not working. when you look at that verse, it's literally, he shall slay the dragon that is in the sea. Now we know that the devil is walking around us, looking for who he can devour. We
Yeah.
are in the midst of all this conflict, but there's some other Bible verses that, Lord, I literally have to ask him a question, and many questions when it comes to this verse. It's like, okay, so you're telling me that the dragon, the serpent, this Leviathan, and when you look at it from, I think it's it's in Job. It's in Job 34, where uh, God is asking, is it? I think it's Job 34. Hold on, my notes disappeared on me. Where he's asking, can you tame the Leviathan?
Oh
Can you
yeah.
put a hook in him? Not 34, 41, 41.
41.
It's 41, 1 through 34.
There it is.
And this is the details about the Leviathan. Can you put a fish hook? Can you basically, can you tame or can you conquer the Leviathan? Because Job is going through all of these things in his
Yeah.
life, and the
Wow.
Lord is
Wow.
like, can can you conquer the Leviathan? None of us can conquer the Leviathan,
Well,
but the Lord says, "Go ahead, go
I
ahead."
just realized that this when he says Leviathan, I always thought, what's the weird animal to come up with God? But he's saying you're going through all this because of the great controversy between me and Satan right now. In other words, the Leviathan, and he says, look, let me tell you something. Can you tame him? He's talking about the devil right here, and I just didn't put that together until just now. Wow.
Yeah, he's literally saying, "Can you beat the devil?"
Wow.
And you can when you just read, when you start reading these things, when you look at oh, Psalm 34, Psalm 34, 13 and 14. This again. So we know that the Leviathan from Isaiah 27:1, the Leviathan is associated with the serpent and the dragon. So we've already established that the serpent and the dragon are associated with the Leviathan. So now we're looking at Psalm 74 and then 13 and 14.
Just a second. I have to get out of the non-inspired version. Or something else besides it. Okay. All right. Ready. Keep thy tongue from evil and thy lips from...
No, 74.
74. Oh, okay.
74. Yeah.
Thou didst divide the sea by thy strength. Thou breakest the head of the dragons in the waters. Thou breakest the head of the Leviathan in pieces, and gravest him to be meat to the people inhabiting the wilderness.
So, again, here we have another verse that's associating with dragons and then Leviathan. And then it says this Leviathan has heads, or this dragon has heads. And so it doesn't tell you how many heads it has, but we know that it has heads. Brad, I can see you smiling.
I know where you're going. I don't know it well enough, but I'm digging this. Go for it.
So I start to look at, what is it? Is it in Daniel 7, where it talks about this script beast, an undescripted beast that has how many heads? Daniel 7. I'm turning there myself.
Seven. Oh no, it's Revelation. The three beasts. Let's see. Wait. Daniel, leopard had 4 heads. 10 is also equal to the total number of horns in Daniel 7. Blah 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 blah.
Yeah, my notes kind of disappeared on me, so I'm going off of memory right now. But I hate when that happens. When one of your monitors decides to like, you know what, I'm not going to work for you tonight.
Oh no! Can you
But
go for it?
yeah, no. Let's. But there's this beast that has. Oh, you know what? I know how to look for it real quick.
You can hit Windows key if you're on Windows Tab, and then the arrow keys will pull over your currently active window if you're in that other screen. But
It's I'm on a Mac.
Ah, okay.
So when you said that, I'm like, no. But anyway, when you start, okay, so let's go back to the sea. So you have this Leviathan, you have this dragon, you have this serpent that lives in the sea. And so, like I said, I start asking the scripture questions. Lord, why this Leviathan dragon live in the sea? Why there? What's so important about the sea? And so I start to look at, okay, you can go to Revelation 13 because you see, oh, that verse on the 10 heads and the 7 crowns. That's Revelation 12 3. But it's also going to be in Revelation 13 where we're heading right now. So if you go to Revelation 13, you're going to see that, and here it is. And I stood upon the sand of the sea. This is John speaking. And I stood upon the sand of the sea, and he saw as a beast rise up out of the sea, having 7 heads and 10 horns, and upon his horns 10 crowns, and the heads of the names of blasphemy. And I asked, why come up out of the sea? Why didn't it just come up out of the land first? Or why didn't it just come up out of the air? I'll give you another verse here. The story about the demoniac, and where did those when Jesus cast out those demons from that guy, where did those demons go into? They went into pigs or swine.
And
where did those swine
into the water? Wow.
Into the water.
Huh.
And you start to look at it, it's like, okay, so I know there's the old phrase is why pigs can't fly, but but they went into the sea, they went into the water, and you start looking at it, it's like, okay, so that Isaiah 27:1 verse starts to grow on you. Why does the Leviathan, why does it live in the sea? And why does this beast in Revelation 13 come up out of the sea first? And we briefly talked about it. So let me step back just a moment, because my head is going 1,000 miles per hour, and I know we're short in time.
Well, do you want to think about it while I do the last video? Because I think we have one more video on this guy's testimony about what's going on. So let's listen to what he says about these UAP as he zooms out as you're thinking about this. Very interesting stuff.
Maybe one last thing, Jeremy, you can ask from me anyway. The 4 points that fly away. That's a pretty key moment, I would think. That's a pretty cool moment, right?
Absolutely. So the video stops. Where the video stops, I'll share this. This is kind of like, something that probably everybody wants to know. I'll tell you what happens when the video stops. The video stops and the CSM zooms out. And as the CSM zooms out, we notice that there's a total of 4. Now, on radar, I already noticed that once I came back in, I noticed the one that I was looking for visually, and I noticed other contacts in that same location. But when we first zoomed in on the contact in the video that you see, we only saw the one, and then we see the second one. It was only when we zoom out we realize, holy crap, there's 2 more out here, a total of 4. And so we're just watching. what's the point of looking away? You know, we're witnessing something that most people don't get a chance to witness in their lives. So we're just watching on Sapphire, and we're tracking it, and Sapphire's, you know, tracking one of them, and it's tracking and tracking and tracking. And as time goes by, we're like, let's just watch. I would say maybe 20, 30 seconds pass after the video stops, and all of a sudden, you just see all four of them take off to the northeast all at the same time, just out of nowhere. And if I had to talk speed, it was it would say like maybe 2 steps behind instantaneous. It wasn't like if you blink it's gone. We had time to watch them go off into the distance, like, but really instantly. No noise, no sonic boom, no, you know, effects in the water that, you know, cause rippling in the water. Nobody was affected. Nothing was affected. We didn't get a gust of wind to hit us. And that's anything else, you know, I'm not a scientist, but anything else that could have been disturbed with that level of speed was not disturbed.
And these 4 points leave as if they're one object. Is that right?
Yes. So what in the Navy, we have these things called tactical signals. So we'll do tactical signals as an operations specialist with the bridge, and with a strike group or an ESG, which is a expeditionary strike group. We'll get together and we'll conduct exercises, and over different radio circuits, we will conduct different formations, and it's called by the formation commander, and they'll issue a way that everyone's supposed to turn, for example. And once they conduct and execute, they execute, and they all turn at the same time. So it's pretty cool to see ships do this. It was very reminiscent to see all four of those objects as if they were doing the same thing. They all executed at the same time, leaving. It's not like 3 of them left and then one was kind of like a little behind them. No, they were all in sync at the same time. And that's why I said earlier that it was my thoughts were either they synced together like we do in the Navy, and we all take off at turn at the same time, or, you know, get in formation at the same time and execute the order at the same time, or one entity is controlling all 4 of those objects at the same time, and it's just synced together, all 4 objects. Something like that is what went through my mind.
Fascinating.
Wow.
Fascinating.
Yeah, this is a really cool topic.
Yeah.
It's a really there's so much to learn about what is going on with this whole USO USO thing. We just don't have time for it.
Right.
Even when I texted you earlier today, the what is it, the dragons, what did I call it? It
Where's
was
my
the
phone?
Dragon's Triangle.
Yeah, I saw that.
Yeah, the Dragon's Triangle. That's a spot over. They call it the Pacific. It's basically the Pacific Bermuda Triangle, but it's over in, I think it's Japan. And there's different mysterious things going on with USOs when it comes to disappearances, seeing things underneath the water. I find it very interesting that a lot of these UAPs and USOs have, and you've spoken about this before. They have a interest in our military.
I do. Yeah. Here, get closer to your microphone. You're phasing in and out a little bit, and I really want to hear what you're saying.
Can you hear me now?
Very good.
Okay, cool. Yeah, the mics. Yeah. So they have a very keen interest in our military, and I know that according to the Great Controversy, I know that there is going to be one day, one period of time, that Satan is going to have full control of the human race,
Yeah.
except for those who have chosen the side of Jesus.
Right.
And those who have not chosen the side of Jesus, they're going to be fully under his control. Um, Strife, war, bloodshed. Um, and so just thinking of that is like, man, where am I today?
Yeah.
Am I getting so caught up in the things of this world that is taking my mind off of Jesus? And I think about that, especially when it comes to um, the whole spiritualism
Yeah.
that's so wrapped into this right now. And I was just talking about the Devil's Triangle. The Devil's Triangle. Actually, it's called the Devil's Triangle too. The Dragon's Triangle.
Yeah.
And the this stuff is not new. You said it earlier. This is not new. None of this is new. Um, there's so many folklores of this Leviathan or dragon-like beast that lives in the sea. And it's like I said, there's a lot that we think as folklore, but when you look at what God's trying to tell us, is that there's a symbolic dragon out there that is trying to spin the world a tale of deception. And if we get caught up in that tale of deception, um, and that we're going to be swept away. We're going to be swept away. I mean, just programs like this is informing people that, you know what, don't get caught up in the UFO UAP hype, because when you start when you start doing that, the mind starts to um, transform into the image
Yes.
of the dragon. And that literally, um, if you don't believe that if you believe that these are fallen angels that are here to deceive, and in fact they are here to deceive. There's good angels. Don't get me wrong. There are totally good angels here that are opening up the eyes of people around the world. But if you get caught up in all of this, um, and I'm not saying about that with this program. This is opening up the eyes of people.
Sure.
Um, but it's just that I know you have friends, and I have friends that they don't believe that they're demons. They believe that they're visitants from another world, and
Yes.
they're here to help us, and they're not. Um,
I even have some Christian friends that have said, well, if they're seeing other things from outer space that appear to be relatives, then perhaps it's the good angels that are fighting the bad angels. And so this is an interesting topic, because this is what exactly the deception that she says is coming. These people will assume that these aliens, she doesn't say the word alien, but she says they will assume that these visitants are actually dead loved ones that are actually angels. So let me see if I can find that quote, because that really surprised me. And there's more than one of these quotes in Spirit of Prophecy. I'm going to read the one that I've read over and over again. Angels, 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 and the heavenly angels, human guys, and the heavenly angels talked with them. There it is, right here. Bring it up. And it says, I'm going to skip to the middle of it. The whole world was converted into harmony with Sunday law, and as this little feeble people stood out in defiance of the laws of the land and the laws of God, and claimed to be the only ones right on planet Earth, they declared the angels of heaven have spoken to us, referring to those whom Satan impersonated and had died, and they claimed to have gone to heaven. In other words, the people that are appearing to them, which are demonic entities, are angels. They are the angels. And
Yeah.
that's one of several quotes I have on this, that she says, hey, look, they're going to think that these things are angelic entities, which I believe we kind of already saw in the very beginning clip. Burleson, senator, I forget what he is, congressman or something.
Those two guys.
Yeah. And he was saying, oh yeah, well, I think they're angels. Well, what angels are they? Are they good or bad? Well, I don't want to talk about the bad ones. I think they're good. Lou Elizondo, I talked about earlier, he's gotten kind of a guy we've been following. He believes that there are good and bad angels helping us right now, but he doesn't really talk about that angelic idea of it. But some people have stopped him and said, what do you think about this as a government official? We're angelic. I mean, we're Christian researchers. What do you think? What do you think this is? He says, I think exactly what you think it is correct. So this is the deception coming down the line. This is what's happening right now.
Yeah. And it's gonna grasp the world, like that quote you had up there earlier with the heathen deities. I mean, I can't even imagine that happening. But they're going to be true signs, miracles, and wonders, but they're going to be a counterfeit ones.
Yeah.
And we cannot rely off of what we see to be as from God. It has to be to the law and to the testament. If they speak not according to this world, it is because there is no light in them.
No light in them. Yes. No light in them. And we have to test the spirits. And I don't believe that means, hey, let's seek out and see if we can talk to one. But when this stuff comes upon the world, we're told not to question. Don't ask them questions. That's idolatry. Because anytime you go into another spirit instead of to your God to ask questions about your life or about other people or about anything, you have said, well, this thing knows more than my Father in heaven. And so God doesn't want us to do that.
He doesn't.
I'm contemplating continuing or just cutting this right here and talking about this a little later, maybe doing another video on it, because we got a little bit other off-topic topics to talk about. Bob Lazar talks about how this thing is heavily tied to religion, how the government has a whole book on it. Very interesting. I don't know if you know who Bob Lazar is, but
yeah. He's Area 51 guy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Potentially worked on some government re-engineering program that worked on other worldly activities, but we'll see. Pavel had a podcast. He talks about how the lady is Hathor and how they have been talking about this thing from the very beginning. This is I should probably cut this, and we're going to do another show this week about it, because this is really interesting stuff that is hard to encompass in the topic, and I'm trying to keep these topic-oriented, these shows. Tom DeLonge, Blink-182, gives a history of the great controversy from his perspective, and different things. So there's lots going on, man. And I just every week I wonder, are we going to have enough to talk about? But there's always something happening in the spiritual realm that people just don't realize, and so that's me talking about. We're gonna dig further into this and find out more about it. I should play some of these clips. I'm gonna ask the audience, do you want to hear some more of this stuff, or should we go for another hour session, because we have a lot of content to cover. I'm gonna see. Do you have any comments while we wait for that, because it takes about 30 seconds for us to actually see the comments.
It's a lot.
I know.
I'm there's a lot. I'm pausing here because I didn't know we were in the same time zone, and so my wife's like, "Are you going to be up for this?" I'm like, "Yeah."
I know. It goes late sometime. We try to keep it down to an hour or an hour and a half, and that's been my kind of goal with this thing. But yeah, man, it's
the abyss, the whole thing about the abyss, because that one day that the devil is going to be released from the abyss, from the great deep. And sometimes I see that as the counterfeit second coming. But then there's the future past, not future past, but future tense of that. But it's that whole the deep, the waters, the abyss. This we need to learn how to walk on the sea.
Amen.
Um,
Sea of glass.
yeah, and I there's so many sea references in there, but at the end of the day, we need to ask God, hey, Lord, am I going to be able to walk on the sea of glass? Um, the world is getting, I mean, the world is getting caught up on this, and I know, and I'm waiting for you to say, okay, let's spin it, because you and I will. I'm seeing the signal in your face. I'm like, I got the video queued.
No, I think I need to do some more videos this week because I think we have a whole nother show to talk about, but I need to do a little more research on the rest of the content. So I want to hear what you have to say, and then we'll see what we have going.
Well, I wanted to stay on topic, but I did have a question for you.
Go for it.
Have you covered the it's not out of it's they call them out of body experience.
OBEs. Yeah.
Yeah. And when people come back and they say I spoke to my angel, or I spoke to this entity from another world, and they said that if we don't do this to this planet, that if we keep going this route on this planet, we're going to we're all going to destroy ourselves. Or and I find it interesting is that it still goes back to that quote you had mentioned. These visitants from other worlds are warning us, quote unquote, that this planet is heading for destruction. Yet these are the same beings that are preparing this planet for destruction.
Yeah. They're playing both sides right now, and they're trying to play the good guy, bad guy. Yeah, that's what I've been noticing. And you know what? And this is a little bit of a rabbit trail. I'm not going to go too far down this, but what I've been seeing happens is that there's two ways they can start talking to somebody. Number one, it's either by there's hypnosis, but another method is by meditation. Emptying yourself and allowing these spirits into you is basically satanic prayer is what it's come down to. But the second one is using drugs like hallucinogenics and stuff, DMT. And I've seen that. Okay, so here's the rabbit trail. I was talking to my relatives about this just today. I said, you know what's really fascinating is that I promise not to go too far. This is going to open up a lot of stuff. But Elon Musk.
That's for another program.
It is. I don't have plans to talk about this, but Elon Musk talks about how if his investors better be thrilled he's taking drugs, because if he stops, then he's not going to be doing as well in his businesses. And it cued the question, what drugs are you taking? And it came out that he's taking ketamine, and ketamine is a very, very strong hallucinogenic, like DMT, and so what's talking to him that's making him so powerful and making him so, that's as a Christian, that's what begs the question. Wow. Okay. So you're taking drugs that are inhibiting your frontal lobe and your decision-making process that allow you to see other things in your head. Who's talking to you? That's my first question. But I could do a whole episode on that. So I'm not going to go too far down that rabbit trail, but and this isn't political. I don't make this political about.
It's not.
Yeah.
You're concerned about the individual, the person as a soul, because what was it say? We fight not against flesh and blood, but against spiritual principalities and dark places.
Yeah. Right.
I mean, there's a lot of people out there that it's like, you know what, I would love it if they would just read this verse or read that or God, just I pray that your Holy Spirit will open their eyes, or you would put someone in their path that would just open their mind to the world is bigger than what you're seeing right now.
Yeah.
I you know, what's his Carl Sagan. Carl Sagan.
Hmm.
He penned the there was and I know you know the reference here. There was a picture taken of, I think it was 6 million miles away from here.
Oh,
I think it was
pale
Voyager
blue
1,
dot. Yeah,
pale blue dot. Yeah, pale blue dot.
that's
And I think
here.
about that
That's
picture.
us.
That's us. And all the births, deaths, crimes, love, joy, peace, all that stuff, wars, is all occurring on that small pale blue dot. And you have to ask yourself, are we alone in the universe? We're not alone in the universe, because
No.
God's ear is listening to that pale blue dot, to everything that is going on this planet.
Wow.
And he cares about everyone on this planet. The most famous verse in the Bible is John 3:16.
Yeah.
Can you bring that up? Do you have
Oh
a
yeah.
Strong's version, a Strong's concordance version of that? We're not drifting. We're just trying to give you you as the viewing audience another view of, we're not alone in this universe.
eSword. Let me pull up eSword. Man, I haven't pulled that program up for a long time. All right, it's on my screen behind the screen. Okay, we're gonna pull it over here. Okay, there we go.
At least your screens are working.
let's do it. Got John 3:16 real quick. 3 on 3. Oops, not Luke. Matthew, Mark, Luke, John 3:16. There it is. Come on, Strongs. My Strongs isn't working. Huh. Interesting. That's new.
Wow, that's really. Oh, there it is.
Well, this was Smith. This is Bible commentary from Smith, but I'm not sure why Strong's isn't appearing. This is unusual. Usually it appears just fine. So, yay. I don't know what's going on here. Okay. All right.
Oh, yeah, you've got the word there. You've got the word there.
Okay.
Okay, cool. So the verse says, "For God so loved the world that he gave his only begotten Son, that whosoever believeth in him should not perish, but have everlasting life."
Yeah.
We're talking about the pale blue dot, right?
Yeah.
I want you to hover over the word world. And what is that in Greek?
It's very small, but it says cosmos.
Cosmos.
Fascinating.
So
God so loved the cosmos.
God so loved the universe, the cosmos.
I love that. Wow.
See, when you look at verses like that, and then when the Bible talks about that we are made a spectacle unto men and unto angels, and then the whole creation grown up. No, we're so selfish. We're thinking that God so loved this planet. He does love this planet, don't get me wrong, but the whole plan of redemption is about the whole universe. And the universe is stained by this pale blue dot, and God loves this pale blue dot enough to send his son.
Mm.
And when he sent his son, he's trying to restore the universe that back in harmony with his love. Let me say it like this, with his character.
Mm-hmm.
Because Satan, Lucifer, wants to not only challenge God's character, saying that you can do whatever you want, but he wants to mar the universe, and that's why you have, being a former sci-fi guy myself, and I know there's a whole bunch of sci-fi people on here, but if you ever looked at some of these, you've got Atlantis. What is it? What is that? Stargate,
Oh yeah.
SG-1, Star Trek, all these, Babylon 5, I don't
Mm-hmm.
know, Battlestar Galactica. You got all of these sci-fi pictures,
Yeah.
and all they want to do is propagate sin throughout the universe.
Yeah.
In fact, all they want to do is conquer the universe.
Conquer the universe.
And
Or federate it
Satan,
with themselves.
I like the word federate, the federation. And but Satan has to win this planet. He's not going to, but he has to win this planet. And if he can get the people to reflect the image of the Leviathan that comes up out of the sea
Yeah.
and comes up onto the land, and if it can reflect, if he can get the people to reflect his image instead of God's image, then he's got this planet. But he won't have this planet because we know that there will be a people that will stand in the last day, which is these are the last days, but we know that there will be a people that will say, no, we will serve God and we will not serve you, adversary. Um, but I thought you'd like that verse there because it blows your mind up. It's not just this planet. It's it's the whole creation. Jesus, if that didn't if the cross did not occur, I think about that. If the cross did not occur, and if if Jesus failed, heaven forbid, but if he failed, we would all be, I don't even know, we would all be just, yeah. So you keep doing these programs, man. Um, you keep doing these programs. Open up people's eyes. That's the whole key. Open up their eyes that they may see and behold the beauty of God. And yeah,
Very, very good. Yeah, very good. I hope people are actually reaching a conclusion about this thing. And I've had several people reach out and say that they are. It's hard to keep up with some of the messages, and I appreciate them. And if you have been touched, I'm talking to the audience especially, by this program, please reach out by commenting. That really helps us go, because if there's something that you've learned and been like, wow, this spiritual fight is absolutely real, and I realize that now just by watching this program, we appreciate it. Or if you're one of those few that are just like, we want to help push this message forward. There is a significant thing coming down the line, and we know that it's going to have something to do with spiritualism, something to do with worship. And this is what that channel is devoted for. We're trying to push and help people understand what's coming down the line before it's too late. And if that's you, join our Patreon, patreon.com/strangenormal. Fred, I think that's all we got for tonight.
I think so too, man.
I want to, would you close us out in prayer?
Yes, I sure can. Heavenly Father, great and loving God, we want to thank you once again for giving us this opportunity to study your word. There are people out there who are live tonight with us, but there are people who will go back and who will listen to this program. And I pray, dear Lord, that you will bless them as you have blessed us. Keep us underneath your wings, dear Lord. And then I pray, dear Lord, that no one be deceived who is seeking you in spirit and in truth. Thank you so much for providing for us. And I pray these things in your blessed name, Jesus. Amen.
Amen. Thank you, Fred. Hang out for just a second. Thank you so much, Michelle, for the super chat. Thanks, gentlemen, she says. And we will be right back. I'm going to talk to you after the show, and I know you're tired. I won't stay long, but hang out for just a second. Folks, thank you so much for hanging out with us tonight. It's been a real pleasure to talk about these things and think more about them. There is so much going on in the world today that many cannot keep up with it. And so if you want to keep up with spiritualism, if you want to keep up with what's happening, some latest events, we're going to be opening up the channel to doing more on that, on this channel. So keep checking in, hit that little subscribe button and hit the bell icon so you're notified when new things are appearing on this channel, and you want to see more of that coming right down the line here. I'm delaying because I have to rewind some videos in order to make this thing work. But my name is Bradley, and this has been Strange Normal. Pure strangeness, absolute normalcy. We'll see you next time.
You're watching Strange Normal, where the truth is the truth.